Good afternoon. Our team is formed by Dominic del Castillo, David Osuna, and me, Aldo Matsumoto, and we're going to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer.
So, as my teammate said, we're going to be talking about one of the most infamous figures in criminal history, Jeffrey Dahmer, who was often referred to as a Milwaukee cannibal. Cannibal because he liked to perform some cannibalistic acts with his victims, and his crimes raised a lot of questions, whether it was in mental health, societal failures, and the criminal justice system.
But first, we're going to talk about his childhood. The first reason he started developing necrophilia and murder tendencies was because he had a surgery of double hernia. This caused that after his surgery he started recovering, but his recovery was too painful. As a consequence, he started developing his tendencies, as I've said, and had he not suffered so much through recovery, he wouldn't have he would have stayed an energetic kid. Second was his father was a research chemist who, along with his son, would bleach tendons and hairs off of rodents, and as a consequence of this, he started to develop a hobby of, as we can see here, to put in jars of formaldehyde bones and craniums of animals. Talking about his family, we see that he has a mom, a dad, and obviously and a brother. His brother was because his mother had depression and suffered from mental illnesses, as well as trying to kill herself, and his father was too focused on his job. He fought for attention with his brother. After his necrophilia and murder tendencies began at the age of 14, and the tendencies turned into actions after his parents got divorced. Wallstrom states that Dahmer had an off-the-chart libido, which means he had more tendencies than normal people would have, and he was sent to the army after his father had remarried in December 1978. After this, after his first arrest, he was sent to live with his grandma because his father couldn't manage his alcohol problems.
Okay, now, following up with Dahmer's crimes, his first murder was in Bath Township, Ohio in 1978, just in the same year where he was supposed to go to the army. But the second one only followed until 1987, where he was still killing in Milwaukee now. Now, Wisconsin, Milwaukee was where his other 15 killings happened. Between 1978 and 1992 was the killing spree that he had. He followed a tendency though. Most of his victims were poor, African American, Asian, or Latino. Most of them were homosexual. He trapped them, played psychological games, and had the Milwaukee police station not labeled his crimes as low priority because of the victim's sexuality or race, the investigations were resulted in Dahmer's quicker detention. Then, as Jenkins points out, Dahmer's numbers are not as big as our serial killers. As I said, it's only 16 people. But Luis Gavito, Pedro Lopez, they'll have more numbers. But his crimes were particularly gruesome. Many involved necrophilia, which is the sexual liking of corpses, in this case humans, and cannibalism, which, as I said before, is eating parts of deceased humans.
Okay, so now focusing on causes and effects. After presenting this, I'm gonna have a question. Is there a diagnosis about his situation? Dahmer began having his compulsions when he was like a very teenager. Had he treated his impulses when he was still young, he wouldn't have killed all those teenagers. So he had like necrophilia, compulsions, and murder. So when under the influence of alcohol, Dahmer started drinking alcohol like when he was still young. He tended to do more of these actions. During his trial, the jury directly states that Dahmer was found sane. That's very interesting because if he was found sane, that means that he was like fully control of what he did. And after that, he was like with many different illnesses, such as borderline personality disorder and a psychotic disorder too. So it's very weird because it could be because he wanted to reduce his time in prison, because he already accepted all his actions. Dahmer was also killed in prison. After his death, Dahmer's body was cremated. That means that he was like pretty much burned, but his brain wasn't. So many scientists wanted to study his brain to see if there was like any neurological problem in there, but his dad didn't want to because of Dahmer's wishes. That's a theory that has been, because as we saw in the series in Netflix, Dahmer's dad also had like those weird compulsions or impulses when he was young too, but he didn't do all those actions. Also, his mom, as he already presented, she had depression and anxiety and took many pills when she was pregnant. So that could be like two different causes of a diagnosis of his actions. So mainly, there could be inheritance of violence toward his son, or it could simply be because he wanted to do those actions.
At the end, in February 1992, Jeffrey Dahmer accumulated 15 life sentences because of the people he killed. But in May of the same year, he accumulated a 16th one because of the murder he was found guilty in 1978. Finally, Dahmer was murdered by a fellow inmate in a Wisconsin prison in 1994.
Okay, thank you for your time, and we're gonna see the references.